we finally get the reason why there's not a lot of storage space. We have a bunch of updates regarding the recent hotfix. Also showcase those briefly. We also have to go over some of the internal thinking by the developers that will give us some leads for the future of content. We got a ton to talk about. What's up, world? We're back in the video. We're checking out all things Diablo 4. Okay, so first up, let's just briefly go over the hotfix. Obviously, you have those nightmare changes, some health reductions. There's a bunch of bug fixes, including the bug fix for that frozen terror malignant power that was essentially causing you to get feared by your own power. Massive nerfs around the board for the nightmare dungeons. However, there was actually some clarification by Adam Fletcher on his Twitter about this hotfix, and a lot of people seemingly thought that the hotfix also meant that there was getting density changes for those nightmare dungeons. However, this hotfix does not include any density changes for any part of the map, or at least any part of the game rather. Those will seemingly come in patch 1.1.1. But Adam Fletcher responded to a tweet here saying, "Oh yeah, no, density and NMDs were totally different topics. This is why we talked about the NMDs being too difficult, and how we were addressing it in today's hotfix for a segment." Yeah, there was even some other tweets here basically asking about it, and essentially there was some confusion around that. Now, people were also upset because they saw that the YouTube live stream had its comments disabled. However, they've had the YouTube comments disabled since December of last year. Seemingly, they want to funnel everybody over to Twitch and to keep the moderation much more simple. I definitely understand it, especially for the Q&A stuff and just getting those questions and everything funneled to one platform. Also, yeah, for moderation, it kind of makes sense to just have it all on one. We had another tweet about the CDR stuff and the CDR changes that were happening. We had a tweet here that said, honestly, you should just remove the CDR and just make the spells fun interval to press. Joseph Pypor actually responded here saying, "This is certainly a position held by several on the team. We'll have more to discuss a little further down the line, but thanks for the feedback." So maybe they removed the stat entirely since they think it's so overpowered. I do think cooldown reduction is pretty strong and mostly for every class probably, especially because it goes off your base cooldown and your base stat. Especially for things like Frost Nova, which is like over 2 seconds per cooldown reduction perk, and if you have 20% on your amulet, or at least what it used to be, and yeah, it was quite a bit, and it actually knocked down cooldowns quite a lot. I do agree that if they want to nerf cooldowns like this, they should just nerf cooldowns in general to where all of them are much lower. The button presses and things do not feel good, and really only on Sorcerer, they only feel good when you get a reset, or like when you get a proc reset on your defensive cooldowns, or if you have Teleporter on a really low CD. But I'm sure for other builds, it probably doesn't feel good to hit your buttons once every 3 minutes. And yeah, it's an over-exaggeration, but that's kind of what it feels like compared to other games. So I really do hope they smoothen that experience out and just let me hit more buttons, or let me hit the buttons more. Now, we actually had 3 developers chime in on the stash space. So everybody wants to know, why are we not getting any more stash space? And then they finally give us just +1 stash tab. Why can they only give us 1 stash tab? 3 of the main developers from the Campfire livestream have all chimed in, and Joseph Pypor had a tweet here about the storage saying, basically, this isn't a storage concern, it's a performance concern. So then people had questions, and we had Rod Ferguson tweet here, and he said, actually, it would be more harm than you think in terms of how much stash takes up memory with everything stored inside. That's why we continue to optimize the game to make more room for them. Joseph Pypor finished up here saying, when we say they are expensive, what we mean is that they create a lot of memory overhead. When you see another player in-game, you load them and their entire stash filled with all of their items. This is what the teams are working diligently to improve so that we can have more ASAP. Adam also chimed in saying stashes load every time a user hits town, so there's some implications to performance for players. Engineers make optimizations, and with those we will be able to add in the future. Now, I'm not a game designer, but I have worked a tiny bit in Unreal Engine. Probably not enough to qualify myself on this stuff, but this is honestly shocking, especially when the company already has a dedicated MMO team. Clearly this is an issue with server-side and network issues, so they're loading everybody's stash into memory for whatever reason because they have to load everyone's stash simultaneously, seemingly so that maybe if someone gets what items out of their storage, it has to register that item. However, from a design standpoint, that just doesn't sound quite right, especially when you look at other MMOs with near infinite storage space or a ton of infinite storage space. Also, when you look at their game under their brand already, which is World of Warcraft, there can be hundreds of players on my screen, and we all have storage space. And you can't make the argument for console because the same can be said about Final Fantasy XIV. Final Fantasy XIV is on the PS4, and there's also hundreds of people on your screen. Granted, there's like some deload memorization stuff there and optimization, people disappearing. However, that's like after like 40 or 50 people appear on your screen. With Diablo 4, I think it's like 12 people per map or 12 people per city. That's astronomically low. So there's no reason why the storage space should be loading everyone's inventory first off. And second off, there's no reason why it should use this much memory to load everybody's storage space. Although granted, again, it shouldn't even be that originally. From a design standpoint, this sounds like a disaster and has me absolutely worried for the future of the game. These are the same sentiments and same things that we heard from Halo Infinite. We all know how that game went. I know people say that they still play that game. Regardless, it's not where they wanted it. Definitely not where they wanted it. But if something as core as the stash space is that broken, and it's using that much memory, how are they going to be able to add all this endgame content that they keep talking about? And I know people are excited for all this endgame, oh, they're going to add new endgame content. And I don't know if you heard during the live stream, they said that leaderboards weren't coming until Season 3. And they also said that they wanted the endgame content to attribute to the leaderboards. So that means we're not getting any new endgame content until Season 3. So it's going to take them that long to add a new endgame loop other than Nightmare Dungeons, which they themselves don't even consider as endgame, so the game doesn't have any at all. And also, again, if the stash base is taking up this much memory, how are they ever going to implement anything big? Now, granted, you're probably going to be instanced, but they won't ever have any big world bosses or big world events other than what we have right now. At least seemingly so, if they're having that much issues with the small margin of what the items encapsulate. I mean, realistically, these are just text files, right? Again, I don't really know too much server backend, and I'm probably talking too much out of place. But yeah, this just definitely doesn't seem right, and from a design standpoint, just like Halo Infinite and these other games that have had, like, spaghetti code, they never really do anything with the game, and nothing really ever comes of it. Seemingly, they've already reached the limit with what this game can actually do, and that's my major worry. I know we also had some issues with the accelerated battle pass stuff not giving you a confirmation, and there was also cursor stuff there. I myself actually didn't want to activate the accelerated battle pass. I wanted to buy the normal battle pass, but there wasn't an option for me to do that. I wanted to save my accelerated battle pass, and I thought I could click in and then just hit no, or it would bring me to another option for the paid battle pass. So I was just going to pay the $10 to get the premium battle pass, but I wanted to save my accelerated for next season. However, there was no option for me to do that, and it just forced me to buy the battle pass because there was one click button and I was done. You've also seen people that have like defaulted their cursor to it, or their controller has been like defaulted to the button. Adam Fletcher did respond here saying that we'll update that and move the cursor over to the season journey by default, as it's immediate fix and a small update early next week. Nice to hear, but I still wish I was able to save my like $20 or $30 accelerated battle pass for next season, or whenever I came back, probably season 3, since that's probably when endgame or any new endgame mechanic will be coming out. But yeah, so it even happened to me. I was basically forced to use my battle pass with no confirmation, and it is what it is. That does about cover for today's video. If you enjoyed it, like, and subscribe, and until the next one, deuces.